Today, we're going to the castle. Not just me, but the ducking historians as well. As we're going to see what makes this community space able to keep going. And see some of the, and hear from some of the people behind it. Well, see you then. So, would it be okay if you introduce yourself so that everyone of the viewers at home know who you are?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so my name is Lara Rowe. I'm the Castle Museum and Archive Manager here at Tamworth Castle.
So, if you don't mind me asking, what kind of jobs are needed to keep the castle going?
Yeah, it's a really good question because a lot of the jobs are behind the scenes and generally people won't see us doing those jobs. So we've broadly got three main teams here at the castle. We've got the front of house team, who are the people that you'll meet when you visit. So they'll be working on reception, giving you some information about the site, showing you around, making sure the building is safe, and that the objects inside the castle are well looked after. We've then got the collections team, who are largely volunteers. We do have a collections officer, collections and archives officer, and they maintain our collection, they maintain our museum accreditation, they make sure that we have relevant objects available for temporary exhibitions and that the things inside the building are well cared for, and help us to access more information about our history. So if we're doing a particular piece of research, they'll be able to help us find the relevant object or archive document to go with it. And the last part of the team is the education and events team. So the room that we're in at the moment is the dining room. This room is really well used with school visits, and our facilitators will be using everything in this space to help us convey to our visitors and to our school visitors what it might have been like to live in a castle. And if you don't mind me asking, do you look specifically for graduates? No, it very much depends on the type of role, and a lot of the time in this sector it will be experience that is most relevant. So you might actually start off in a voluntary role or in a casual role, just trying out different types of work before you decide to specialise, and it'll be those skills and that experience that are really valuable to us.
So, if you don't mind me asking, when it comes to the development of history and our understanding of the past, what role do you feel the castle can play in that?
We play a huge part actually, and this is the exciting part of our work because our understanding of what's happened in the past moves on all the time. So the display that we're in at the moment is the Saxon Gallery. It's a relatively new gallery, as you can see from the displays in here, but even since this display has been done, we've moved on our understanding of Saxon heritage. So we recently were able to acquire a local find that a metal detectorist had found, which was actually a die stamp, which would have been used to create some of the plate stamping that was used on things like helmets, very similar to the Staffordshire hoard. So this is a massive step forward for us in understanding where and how some of these really significant pieces might have been made, and literally within the space of a few years our understanding has moved on massively. So I think as an organisation, our interest and our active engagement with researchers, with people who, well, metal detectorists largely, but also people who acquire collections and tell us about what they've got, is it's a huge part of our work, and it makes our visit much more interesting.
Thanks. So, when people think of castles, you often hear stuff like, think of things like battles and kings and knights, people bashing each other with steel, you know, what some people call boys' history. But would you say that Tamworth Castle offers, say, a discussion with perhaps a wider demographic, like say women or such?
Yeah, I think we really try to do that. I think, I mean, we're quite lucky that we have obviously got our warrior princess Ethelflaed to talk about. So she's a really significant figure in Saxon heritage, and you know, we have a strong link to her. So that gives us an opportunity to talk about a female figure in our history. I think more broadly, I think you're right. I think history is represented largely in terms of male aspects. So battles are recorded, political figures are recorded. It's less easy to get to the information about the female residents of this castle, but what we do know is that, you know, they were the people running the households. They were largely the people who oversaw the running of these buildings, and you know, a lot of the time might well have been here on their own. And so we are working hard to find out more about them, but they certainly had a massive role to play in how this castle was maintained over time.
So you definitely say that this castle is more than just going to talk about yet more straight white men with big fancy metal hats on.
I certainly hope so. Yeah, I certainly hope so. And you know, as we kind of talk about the Saxon Gallery and how research moves on, it's exactly the same when we talk about the inhabitants of the castle. You know, we are constantly discovering new information about those people whose voices we haven't heard yet, and looking back through the lens, a contemporary lens, to re-examine the sources that we've used previously. So yes, definitely.
So obviously we understand that climate change is a thing, that the environments are all a bit different, things are moving, the castle is probably in need of some repairs here and there, and so we were just wondering, how do you feel the castle plans for things like sustainability into the future?
Yeah. Climate change and the effects of the environment on the castle are a significant part of our work. I mean, we don't tend to see the impact on the building until some time after the change. So we are seeing movement in the castle. We do a lot of monitoring, so we do things like we monitor humidity levels, we monitor temperature, we monitor the pests that come in, and by pests I mean insects, not rats or pigeons even, but they tell us about the condition of the building. So damp conditions attract certain types of pests, for example, so we can see how the impact of the environment is affecting the building, and that helps us to plan for its future care. So to answer the question about what we do, we monitor very closely and we look for trends, and that helps us then to prioritise where we put our attention. So we're currently doing a big restoration piece of work on the curtain wall, and that is a direct result of the deterioration of the condition of the wall. Now some of that is to be expected because of the age of the building and the fact that we would expect the materials to deteriorate over time. Some of it is purely to do with the weather conditions and the fact that it's a south-facing wall. So we are very much governed in an exposed position as we are here by change of climate, and although we can't do too much to affect that, what we do is monitor and plan for it.
Now, I hope you don't mind me asking, because finance is always a bit of a tough topic, but where would the funding for these conservation works, where would that kind of be sourced from?
So that's a really good question, and it comes from a variety of sources. So the big capital works project that we've got going on at the moment is being funded by Tamworth Borough Council, and has been planned for and budgeted for over many years because of the scale of the project. Some of our smaller works we're able to apply for grant funding for, but again, you know, that we're doing that over time. We are kindly supported by Friends of Tamworth Castle, who, if we've got a particular piece in our collection that needs restoration or work, they will sometimes fundraise on our behalf and make a donation towards it. And of course, our earned income through admissions and events, we try to utilise any additional income in maintaining and conserving the building. So a whole variety of sources.
So, I'm just wondering, what does the castle mean to you, and why do you feel it's important to preserve?
The castle is uniquely significant, and I can't overstate how important it is in that respect. It's a scheduled monument, so it's a step up in terms of historic significance. It's one of only 3 castles that are of this shape and age, and it's the only one that is still intact. And it's largely intact because after it sort of finished its use as a military defensive structure, it became a residence. And so families have lived here and they have made it their own, and they've made changes to it. And we can read the difference that they made and the changes that they made in the building and the fashions to a large extent. And so because of that, it has a big story to tell us, but also it is it's been kept in fairly good condition. So it's not a pile of ruins on the top of a mound. It is a complete structure, and it has a variety of rooms that each tell us something different. So the room that we're in at the moment is the oak room, and we've just finished a conservation project on the oak fireplace, which has sort of brought this structure back to life. And this is a perfect example of something that we are learning more about as time goes on. It wasn't made for this building, so we don't know too much about its provenance, but we can start to read the symbolism. And we are going to be working with creative practitioners to help us reinterpret this space in a really new and vibrant way. And I think that's what I love about the castle, is that it constantly throws up surprises for us.
So, do you feel it sort of brings out the best in people?
I think it can do. I think it's a challenging space. It's quite wild at times. It's open to the elements. It's certainly a unique experience being here, and I think you can come here and have a totally different type of experience each time you come, depending on what's happening, what the weather's like, and I think that for lots of people is what brings them back.
Oh, thank you very much. And sorry we can't show the woodwork restoration. It's just that YouTube would get upset.
Yeah.
So, obviously, this might seem a bit of a strange question to ask, but how do you feel the castle links in with the life of the local Tamworth community?
We've been really working hard to do that recently. We've had several projects that are directly engaging members of the community. So the community archaeology dig, we've actually run it twice now, down by Holloway Car Park to try and reveal the remains of the castle mill. Was hugely successful and gave local residents and anybody else the opportunity to come along and actually get hands-on with their own heritage. And from it spun out a whole range of activities, from creating a textile installation down on the castle fence walls, right through to craft workshops and an exhibition on the high street. And these are all things that we have been able to do largely because we've had a huge amount of interest from our local community, which has been absolutely fantastic. You can see behind me the community quilt. The other way that we can engage is through our museum collection. So the NHS quilt has come into our collection as we are the local museum, local repository for Tamworth's history. So we have a broader role than the castle. We actually acquire and preserve objects that are connected with Tamworth's social history. So local residents can access both the archives and our digital collection, but we also are the place that collects those objects to preserve them for the future.
Speaking of the future, Where would you like Tamworth Castle to be when it comes to the future of Tamworth?
Yeah, I have big ambitions for Tamworth Castle. I think it's a phenomenal and outstanding asset to the town. I think it is like no other, and I would love for it to have the kind of national profile that we know it deserves. But equally, I would like for us to be able to offer much more community engagement. So the projects that we've just done, grant funded, they're not necessarily part of our core operations, although we're trying to build more of those types of activities in. So I think it has a dual role. I think it's a great asset for tourism and for attracting inward investment into Tamworth, and equally I think it's a fantastic resource for our local community.
Of course. So there's a lot of ways we see the castle. It through things like personality, through culture and community, through the ideas it represents, through the different peoples that make it up, through the workers and resources that bring it all together, through the environment and happenstance, and all the logistics that make it all happen. There were a few shots we were going to do a bit differently, but, well, it was raining, so we had to do something a bit different. Wasn't quite as planned, but we made something good of it all. Kind of like, well, I imagine the Normans didn't exactly imagine the castle as it is now when they first came up to this stronghold of Anglo-Saxon resistance and plonked a great big castle. Belonged to Mott and Bailey on it. Yeah. Like this flag here. Here we see. So after all, as I've said on this channel before, about our flag created for James VI when he wanted to bring the peoples of Britain together. And as I said, I hope to carry on that legacy, and in a lot of ways that's what Tamworth Castle does too. Bringing people together, people of the past, people of the present, building together to bring people of the future together as we come to live and appreciate this environment. And hope you enjoyed this video, and it gave you a bit of an insight, not necessarily into showing you around Tamworth Castle. Hey, I want to make sure that there's still something for you to enjoy if you want to go on a tour, but also, more importantly, I wanted this video to show people what it takes to make something happen. In this case, Tamworth Castle. Because, like Lara said about it being intact and it not being a pile, just ruins on a mound, and just how easy, in a way, it could be to just become ruins on a mound. But for the care and dedication of so many different people making it work, making it there, making it a community space to bring those 900 or even 1,000 years of history or more together for the people of today and tomorrow and hopefully in years to come. There will be challenges, old and new, and hopefully we'll just have the spirit to meet them and make them work. To keep this project going, it takes a lot, and just want to thank the people of Tamworth Castle for that, and to everyone who works and supports Tamworth Castle, and those who help preserve our past, rediscover our past, learn things from our past, help grow our past, to help give us a more enlightening present and guide us towards a better future, which, I mean, at least to my mind, is an important part of what history's about. I just want to say, it was lovely having you here.